Have you ever looked at pictures from 100 years ago? If you have, you might have noticed how thin most of the people were. The round and stout person in a photo was likely to be well off. The likely reasons, you ask. Affluent people were among the few who could buy calorie-dense food in waistline-expanding quantities and pay someone to prepare it for them. They were also spared the need to work long hours at physically grueling jobs. Thus, obesity was a shorthand way of guessing someone's socioeconomic status, a dynamic we still see today in low-income countries. But in wealthier countries, the correlation is inverted. People with food insecurity are more likely to have obesity. A recent study from researchers in the UK tries to explain why people who struggle to feed themselves and their families manage to overconsume so many calories. Surprisingly, the study didn't find the direct line from food insecurity to obesity, but what they did find is more interesting. My name is Jeremy Colon, and this is The Dark Side of Fitness, Episode 10. So before we start, what is food insecurity? Food insecurity is an unreliable access to nutritious food, which is a major source of stress for people struggling to feed themselves and their families. Connecting the dots. The researchers interviewed 600 people, mostly white women, in Liverpool, a city in northwest England. Just over 20% met the criteria for food insecurity. Then they correlated with a list of potentially related challenges. Number 1, distress, psychological, stress, depression, anxiety, and physical symptoms like sleep problems and headaches. Number 2, eating or drinking a Coke. Number 3, diet quality, how frequently they ate a list of nutritious and not so nutritious foods, ranging from oily fish to fried chicken. And number 5, body mass index, BMI. These were the strongest connections the researchers found. Higher levels of food insecurity led to more physical and emotional distress. The stress made people more likely to eat to cope. It was the most powerful correlation in the study. Eating to cope, in turn, was associated with a higher BMI. See how that works? Look at the graph above. The surprise comes from the 3 things that weren't directly linked to obesity: food insecurity, distress, and drinking a Coke. People respond to their challenges in many ways. It's when people eat to cope with those challenges that the risk of weight gain becomes a factor. Drinking a Coke, another common response to the stress, was unrelated to weight gain. In fact, it was weakly associated with a lower BMI. Here's one more counterintuitive finding. Diet quality wasn't associated with either obesity or eating to cope. You might think that someone who's under a lot of stress would feel a gravitational pull toward the nearest KFC. That's true for people experiencing the specific problem of food insecurity. Fast food and ultra-processed foods are simply more accessible to the people most likely to be economically disadvantaged. They're often cheap too. But in this study, not everyone who turned to food in times of crisis necessarily turned to junk food. And not everybody who made poor nutritional choices, for whatever reasons, ate enough of the food to gain weight. Let's now dive deeper into some more information. Why obesity and poverty hooked up? In 1990, there was no connection between income and obesity in the United States, at least at the state level. The average statewide obesity rate was 11%, and no state exceeded 15%. 30 years later, as everyone reading this knows, obesity prevalence has increased dramatically. No state has a rate below 20%, and some states exceeded 35%. But the increase isn't uniform. The poorest states have the highest obesity prevalence, while the wealthiest states have the lowest. Researchers have 2 non-contradictory explanations for the divergence. Reminder, these aren't "this is how it is" facts. They're concepts that scientists are exploring. Number 1, the insurance hypothesis. The idea is that evolution has wired humans to store fat when they experience food insecurity. When food is abundant, there's no need to overeat. But when their access to food is uncertain, they eat more when they have it and store that excess as insurance against future shortfalls. Number 2, genetics. Researchers have long known that people tend to marry people who are like them, a phenomenon called assortative mating. BMI is one of the many ways people sort themselves. Assortative mating is choosing a mate with similar physical traits, educational attainment, and socioeconomic status. Children of parents with obesity are likely to share that trait. Thus, the genetic tendency becomes stronger across generations. Because the poorest people in affluent countries are more likely to have obesity, and the poorest people are more likely to experience food insecurity, poverty and obesity become intertwined. Again, these are just 2 hypotheses. However you feel about them, they do, once again, help underscore how weight control is more complicated than just eat less, move more. Above all, if you're someone who is dealing with food insecurity, find someone professionally who can help you. Thank you so much for getting through the video. I definitely want to say this for the record, and I want to be completely transparent with those who are viewing. This topic is honestly out of my scope. It's out of my practice. I am a certified fitness professional. I specialize in nutrition, but when it comes to food insecurities and other issues that are related to that, it's best to seek someone who can really help you. Plenty of dietitians, plenty of therapists. It's best to seek someone who is not only can guide you, can support you, but has the knows how to basically get you to be better in whatever aspect. So the biggest things that I want to drive home with my thoughts from the study and from what was mentioned is whenever we deal with issues that may arise in our life, whatever stresses that may come in the form of anything, the best thing to do is never allow stress to build up. Never allow stress to affect you to the point where it starts deteriorating your quality of life and it starts to make you do things that are almost out of character, i.e. Stress eating or doing things that may harm you in the long run. So the best thing I can tell you for those who are watching this video is find things that keep your mind busy. Find things that make you happy, whether that's working out, whether that's picking up a new skill, such as cooking or baking or anything, or making new friends or creating a supportive network, whatever that is, find something that's going to keep you at bay when tough times come. Never allow things to build up to the point where you don't feel like you can't be helped, or you feel like you don't have the support, or you feel like you're in a box. Never allow that to happen. There's plenty of resources. There's plenty of things around you that can help you. So never allow things, don't ever feel like you are alone. Point blank. I feel like a lot of times in the moment, we may feel like we're dealing with ourselves and our emotions, but really there's a whole world right around us that is ready for us, that is ready to accept us, take us all in. And the reason why I'm saying all this is all part of living a healthy, a well-balanced lifestyle where we accept ourselves, where we love ourselves, where we big ourselves up, and that all starts with us. So if we aren't feeling up to par with ourselves, we don't feel good about ourselves, we can't do anything else of that matter. So I just say this to just point out that if you're struggling, if you're going through a moment in your life, don't give up. Do not give up at all. Keep trying. Keep moving forward. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you got the message for a little bit of my rumbling, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.